Good morning, friends. We're going to be starting our read aloud today, which falls under our category of listen to reading. And the reason why we do this is so that you can hear a fluent reader, so you can also hear books that might be above your reading level, and so that you can really focus on your comprehension and understanding of a text without having to focus so much on the decoding or the reading of the actual words. So your expectation while you listen to reading is to focus on the reader, that's me, to listen, to think like a reader, to ask questions as you're reading. You can always email me those. And if you have the ability to follow along in the text, you won't have that ability today. The idea that I want to put in your head today is we're going to be introduced to our main character, Gib, and I want you to think about what you know about Gib today. You're going to tell me 3 things you know. You could think about his personality, you could think about his family, or anything, that you find out about him today. So that's the idea I want to put in your head before we start reading today. So the book we're reading is called The Power of Un. There's Gib. And I'm going to read you the back blurb because that's what good readers do when they start a new book. It says, until a week ago, Gib Finney was just a regular guy, shooting spitballs and messing up his science experiments. But when he finds a device called the Unner, everything changes. Gib discovers that the Unner has the power to erase any and all mistakes. Can you imagine that? At first, Gib thinks this is better than winning the lottery. He'll never flunk another test or strike out at baseball again. But after a terrible accident, Gib must decide which events he must undo to erase the disaster. He soon learns that some things are more worthy of unning than others, and some things can't be changed at all. So think about that for a second. If you had the ability to go back in time and erase anything bad that happens to you, it's a pretty cool tool, isn't it? All right, let's get started. The Power of Un. Chapter 1 is called Stranger in the Woods. Stories used to be easier to start before I found out about the innermost workings of the universe and all that stuff. I mean, back in the days, maybe a week ago, when I was just Gib Finney, a regular guy with a bedroom full of birds' nests, stringless yo-yos, baseballs, half-eaten baby Ruths, and computer parts. The Power of Un changed everything. Not just obvious stuff, like my leg, which is very broken because of it. That's the reason I'm lying here in a cast on a cot in the backyard, staring up at the autumn stars. The Power of Un also changed everything I thought I knew about the world. Big things, like what's good and what's bad, and what lies ahead of me. Little things, too. For example, before all this, I never would have wondered if my whole future depends on whether I slurp up this marshmallow that's floating in my cocoa. Sometimes it just about drives me crazy. Because of the Power of Un, I realize this story has about 1 million possible beginnings. Maybe it started a year ago when my little sister Roxy went on a class trip to the animal shelter and became obsessed with dogs. Or maybe it began the day my best friend Ash and I saw a carnival poster in the window of my mom and uncle's hardware store, and we swore on a dead sparrow that we'd go to that carnival no matter what. But I guess the clearest place to start is with that spitball I shot at my math teacher, Ms. Shrapnel, known among her students as Old Shrapnel. That stupid spitball changed my life. Who knew? Not me. Not at the time, anyway. But in order to understand the true meaning of the spitball incident, you first have to know what happened between me and Rainey Frogner earlier that fateful Friday. So this book is kind of a special book. It starts in the future. Well, it starts in the present, and we learn a lot about Gib and what happens through the course of this story just by that little intro. So think about the things that he said, because it's going to help you make predictions later on. It also gives you some clues about who he is as a character, so hopefully you picked up on some of those. All right, I'm going to keep going so we can find out about this spitball. On the morning in question, October 27th. Lorraine Frogner and I sat practically nose to nose, whisper shouting at each other in the science lab at Mitchell Rutherford Middle School. I have no idea why Mr. Maynard assigned us both to the same table. I'd never been able to hide my irritation with Rainey Frogner, though I sometimes wished I could. It often made me look like an idiot, and who wants to look like an idiot? I'm not sure why she has this effect on me. In spite of her unfortunate name, Rainey Frogner has her good points. She's smart, for example, and she's generous. She's lent me lunch money more times than I can count. And she isn't exactly ugly. In fact, she's pretty easy to look at. She has this really unusual combination of shiny black hair and mint green eyes. Still, I'd often catch myself thinking of her as the most pestiferous girl on the planet. Pestiferous means disgusting or really just irritatingly annoying. I got into arguments with her all the time, and when I tried to figure out why, I could seldom find an exact reason. That day, though, I did have a good and exact reason for arguing with her. She was on the verge of ruining our science experiment. We were supposed to do a lab project with potato skins, and we could take our choice. Dunk them in water, pour ammonia on them, blow dry them, dip them in lemon juice, or figure out something original. Since original stuff is my idea of serious fun, I convinced Rainey we ought to pour salt on our potato skins. What do you think that says about Gib as a character, that he likes to do original things, his own idea? I had a pretty good idea what would happen. I've watched my dad salt potatoes in a pan before he fries them. He makes a mean hash brown, and he says one of the keys is not to salt them too much at first, because if you do, the salt will draw out all the water, and you end up poaching them instead of frying them. Salt does that, draws the water out of stuff, like when you put it on slugs, which I've only done once, and it made me want to puke. But I'm getting off track. Rainey thought we ought to pile the skins in a mound and lightly salt them, like she wanted to keep from making a mess or something. She's kind of obsessed with neatness and with doing things correctly, which I guess are two of the things that bother me about her. I thought we should spread the skins out, then really pour on the salt. Experiments in which hardly anything happens are boring, and I was hoping for big results. Come on, I said. If it gets messy, I'll clean it up. Rainey's reaction shocked me. She said, "Gib Finney, you are so bossy and mean. Why does everybody always have to do things your way?" "What are you talking about?" I said. "We're already using salt just because you wanted to. You're so selfish. You never think about what somebody else might want." "I'm not selfish. I just want a good experiment. We should use plenty of salt because if we don't, nothing will happen." Like I said, we were whisper shouting at each other by that time. Maybe you can try what a whisper shout would sound like. I didn't like being called selfish. My face was getting hot. I really wanted to yell or throw something, and it was taking a lot of effort not to. Then Rainey said, "Okay, have it your way." She picked up the box of salt, opened it all the way, and turned it upside down. The potato skins got covered. So did everything else, including my lap and the floor. There was no way to tell what was happening to the skins, so the experiment was useless anyway, as I had to spend a lot of my time under the table with a whisk broom and a dustpan. On top of it all, Mr. Maynard gave us points off for horseplay. By the time the bell rang, I was having a hard time thinking about anything except Lorraine Frogner's head exploding, which is probably why I did what I did, or more accurately, didn't do what I didn't do during the spitball incident later that day. All right, I'm going to stop there because you have a job to do, which is you're going to go to Seesaw, to my circle map, and you are going to tell me 3 things you know about Gib so far. 3 things. Again, they can be personality traits. They can be things about his life. For example, if you caught how old he is or how he feels about Rainey. Whatever you'd like, but 3 things that you can tell me about GIP. Now, if you can tell me more than 3, you'd be exceeding my expectation. Good luck.